This is how the markets are responding post-FOMC. Altcoins are green. Bitcoin is at 117,500. NASDAQ is up 1%. S&P 500 up about 0.3%. Clearly, the markets thought that the FOMC meeting was bullish. But that's not what actually happened. I'm going to show you why the markets are actually reacting the way they are, because no one can tell you that FOMC meeting was actually bullish. But the same reason why the markets are responding like this is probably the same reason why altcoins and stock markets are going to run for at least the next 3, maybe even 6 to 9 months. And I'm going to show you exactly the reason. And it's quite big, because once you get it, you'll really get it. And then I want to show you why we're going to get probably going to get a very strong October, November, and December when it comes to Bitcoin and altcoins. So big show, post FOMC show. I'm actually on day 4 of my fast. I'm feeling quite good on day 4 of my water fast. But I'm here and I'm bringing you crypto love and I'm bringing you crypto wisdoms, and we're going to have an amazing time today. So let's get going, guys. GM. We're back. Everyone's back. We've got through the FOMC meeting last night. It was quite fun, that FOMC meeting. I mean, Pump Fund was actually letting us down with their streaming, but we still managed to make $14,000 in creator rewards, which we will be giving away. I'll probably do it tomorrow. I'm a bit tired today. I'm a bit weak today because of the fast. Tomorrow my fast ends and I'm going to start distributing all the rewards. Otherwise, yeah, big. The markets seem to be celebrating this amazing FOMC meeting. But I don't know. There's a lot of things that I want to talk about around the FOMC. And that's what we're going to be doing today. And I'm going to show you why I think the markets are going to run in the next quarter and maybe even 2 quarters. I want to say for sure, but I mean, you can never say for sure when it comes to altcoins and that. All right. So guys, if you're not already subscribed, you know the story. Subscribe to the channel. If you are subscribed, help me get distribution. Smash the like button. I'm here every single day, bringing you crypto love and crypto wisdom. I don't ask for anything. All I ask is that you hit the like button. That's it. So simple. So simple. All right, let's get the show on the road. Let's get into the alpha. So, as I said, the markets are celebrating now, and they weren't celebrating after the FOMC. You remember when we left the FOMC last night, if you look at the 1 hour chart, at some point in the FOMC, we went to under 115,000. And when we finished the FOMC, we were at about 115,000. And so the question is, why were the markets so negative during the FOMC, but then they celebrated after the FOMC? And it's not a new pattern. It's actually quite an old pattern. I'll show you what actually happened. So the FOMC was exactly what we expected. We expected 25 basis point rate cuts. Powell said that inflation remains somewhat elevated. He says that growth in the economy has moderated. And he said job creation is below the break-even rate. So he's acknowledging that there's a problem in the labor market and that there is a problem in inflation, right? In unemployment. At the same time, though, he actually cut the rates, which is kind of weird because, as this says, today's cut, or yesterday's cut, is the first time in the Fed history, in 30 years plus, that the Fed cut rates with a PCE inflation of 2.9%. The decision was clearly driven by the labor market portion of the dual mandate, or by something completely different. So the first worry is the fact that the Fed's actually cutting rates with inflation at 2.9%, which honestly, they probably shouldn't be doing. The next thing is that when you look at their median projection, they say that inflation should go up and the labor market should remain subdued. And so basically what they're talking about going into stagflation. And Powell actually admitted it when he spoke. He said, risks to inflation are tilted to the upside and risks to unemployment are tilted to the downside, which is a challenging situation. That is what you call stagflation. And stagflation is not a good situation because there's nothing that the Fed can do around stagflation. If we get stagflation and the Fed cuts interest rates, they get more inflation. If they stimulate the economy by dropping more money, they get more inflation. And so it's probably the Fed's worst nightmare, and they just admitted that they actually could be in this situation. So not a very, very, very good situation. The third thing, which was kind of weird about the FOMC last night, was the crazy differences in the dot plot. This was the dot plot. And remember, for those of you who are new, the dot plot is where the Fed members in the meeting tell us where they believe the forecasts of interest rates are going to be. Now, you can see that those were the forecasts for the end of 2025. And now what you can see is that there's one, specifically a guy called Stephen Miran, who is posting his dot way, way, way below. And he kind of says, look, we should be cutting rates by about 1.25%. So the question is, well, why is there such a difference in the Fed? I'm not really sure that there is a difference, because the guy that did this is Miran. And who is Miran? Miran is the guy that Trump has actually confirmed. Trump's pick, Stephen Miran, confirmed as Federal Reserve Governor. Stephen Miran, one of Donald Trump's top economic advisors on Monday, was confirmed by the Senate to serve on the Federal Reserve's powerful board of governors hours before the Fed's two-day meeting. So they've appointed a new governor. The governor is Stephen Miran. And effectively, this guy could be the replacement for Powell. That's pretty much what's happening here. And so what I'm reading is that most of the knowledgeable people in the market say, look, this is like, it's crazy for the Fed to be reducing interest rates whilst the economy without the economy facing a downturn, right? 𝗙𝗘𝗎𝗪 says this marks the third time the Powell Fed has embarked on cutting without the economy in an obvious downturn. Now, obviously, the stakes are different in 2019 and 2024, but they did do it. Jim Bianco actually turned around and said, I've not seen a meeting with so many contradictions. The meeting was a mess. The dot plot was an absolute mess. And what he said is, he says, I hear that a risk management cut, which is what Powell said, it's a risk management decision, is just about Powell getting Trump off his back. That was all the risk. So basically, Powell crumbled to Trump's pressures. And that's why we are where we are here, and why we got the interest rate cut. So now you got to ask yourself, well, I'm not the only guy to work this out. Jim Bianco is not the only guy to work this out. 𝗙𝗘𝗎𝗪 is not the only guy to work this out. During the meeting, everyone was kind of bearish, kind of hawkish. So why now is the market green? Why does the market look like this? Why are every single altcoin running? Why is Bitcoin back almost at 118,000? The truth is, the reason why this is happening is very simple. Markets are forward-looking vehicles, right? And the forward-looking vehicle is saying, look, we've got another October, November, December, January, Feb, March, April, May. We've got another 8 months of Powell. Next year in May, Powell's tenure in the Fed is over. And we now know that the person who's probably most likely to get in here is Stephen Miran. And we also now know that Stephen Miran is very, 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 very dovish, and he's playing into Trump's hands, right? So effectively, why the market is responding the way it's responding is because they're kind of saying, look, we don't really care what Powell thinks anymore. Powell's a nothing burger. We're a forward-looking entity. We're a forward-looking vehicle. And the new guy just seems like he's going to do everything that Trump wants him to do. And Trump wants him to lower interest rates and to stop quantitative tightening and to start QE and to basically get going. And so that's why the market is green like this today. And as I said, it's not only Bitcoin, it's all the other markets as well. It's the NASDAQ as well, clawed back 1%, which it lost yesterday during the FOMC. It's the S&P 500 also clawed back 0.5%, which it lost during the FOMC. So the market's looking forward and saying, we like Miran, we know that Powell's got 8 months left, we'll bide our time with Powell, but we're looking forward and we're looking to the new Fed chair, which is probably not impossible, but highly likely that we're going to get Stephen Miran as the next Fed chair. Also, the reason why the markets may be green is because they realize that the Fed has been in an accelerated type of tightening for the last couple of months. And that revolves around the Treasury General account, right? You remember that they depleted the Treasury General account whilst they were spending, whilst they were unable to agree on a debt ceiling. And so effectively, now they have refilled that since July, which, by the way, if you look at 10th of July, let's just go back to 10th of July on Bitcoin. You'll see that it is, let's just have a look at it, September. Okay, wait, I'm in a 1 hour chart. That's crazy. Let's go back to the 10th of July, August. So 10th of July was somewhere around here. And you can see that what happened there was we started to go down. The reason why we started to go down is because the Fed were effectively taking money out of the economy to refill the Treasury General account, which they said they wanted to get to 850 billion balance. And now it's at 823 billion balance, which means that they've finished taking money out the market now, which is another highly, highly, highly bullish thing for the markets, because it almost means like, here's the Fed in the last month and a half taking out 550 billion out the markets, and now they're going to stop taking things out of the market. So yeah, guys, don't post Solana addresses here. It was yesterday, and we're going to distribute it to yesterday's people. So I mean, it's pointless posting Solana addresses here. All right, so that is that. As I said, I will distribute the pump fund, $14,555,000. I will distribute it to people who were on the stream yesterday and to some pump creators. We'll do that tomorrow when I feel like I've got a bit more energy to do stuff like that. Let's get into crypto-specific news. Let's get into altcoin-specific news. Let's get into the meat and potatoes, basically the meat and potatoes. Because whilst everyone was being distracted by the FOMC meeting, something actually really big happened for altcoins. And it actually happened from the SEC, right? Because the SEC issued a rule change. Now, what is this rule change and why is it so big? Well, basically what they've said is, look, if you want a crypto ETF, if you want to make an ETF, a Bitcoin ETF, a Solana ETF, an ETH ETF, you don't need to go through the long and rigorous application process, providing that, it says here, to be eligible for an ETP under the new generic laws, the commodity may be traded on a market that is an intermarket surveillance group member. By the way, Coinbase is not an intermarket surveillance group member, although they have applied. Or underlie a futures contract traded at least 6 months on the CFTC regulated designated contract market. So basically, what they're saying is, listen, if you have a futures contract trading on a regulated market in the United States, then you pretty much qualify for an ETF regardless. You remember that is what Grayscale actually used when they were going up against Gary Gensler. They said, look, if you've got a futures listed product, then how can you stop us from running an ETF around it? And that's basically how they got the ETF, right? So what does this do? Well, effectively, it means that there are going to be a lot more ETFs very, very quickly. As 𝗙𝗙𝗢𝗪 says, this allows crypto ETFs such as tracking Solana, XRP, Litecoin, and potentially even Dogecoin to launch without requiring individual case-by-case approvals. And that's quite big, because then we can see a whole lot more ETFs. Just look at what happens when this happened last time, right? So this is when generic listing standards drastically increased. And you can see when the listing standards dropped, the number of ETFs drastically increased. And you can see that right over here. And so now we can expect ETFs for Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, Bitcoin Cash, Dogecoin, Polkadot, Shiba Inu, Avalanche, Chainlink, Stellar, Hedera, Cardano, and XRP. The XRP one is delayed. It cannot be listed because that will only qualify in October 2025. But the good news is here that basically this SEC is dismantling all the wrongdoings of the previous SEC. And basically what they're saying is, look, guys, you don't have to go through this terrible process to get ETFs. If there's a futures listed product anywhere on a regulated exchange, and we define, by the way, they define Coinbase as one of the regulated exchanges. This is coming from 𝗥𝗙𝗢𝗪. They define, here is a list of all the exchanges that have futures on Coinbase eligible for spot ETF, for a spot ETF, which is quite a long list. Now, I guess what you should say is, well, if that's the case, why aren't these tokens actually really running? Number one, I think the market expected this. Number two, there's one thing in getting an ETF listed. There's another thing in actually getting demand for that ETF. So, I mean, you can launch a Shiba Inu ETF, but do you think that Wall Street are going to back it? I mean, if they do, great. I just don't see Wall Street aping into a Shiba Inu ETF. It just doesn't feel right to me, right? So I think that's why those tokens specifically aren't running. But I mean, the market itself is running. I mean, look at Aster. Aster's absolutely exploding. 61 cents. Holy moly. This is one of the best trades I think we've ever taken. And I'll show it to you in a sec why that's actually happening. The other thing around this, which is pretty interesting, and I really agree with Mumtaz. So you think about it like this. If we get any asset that can basically become an ETF, and we also know that most of the ETFs are going to enable staking, right? Then why would you go into a DAT? Because the DATs are basically just staking and dropping assets and owning assets, right? And so he says what's going to happen here is the DATs are going to have to move further down the risk curve to compete, right? So what does that mean? It means that they're going to go into DeFi. It means that they're going to start supporting more protocols. And basically all the money that's raised by these digital asset treasury companies is going to be used to grow the crypto ecosystem and not just to hold tokens. And that's really bullish for things like DeFi and a whole lot of other protocols. By the way, tomorrow we're airing an interview that I did with 𝗙𝗘𝗧𝗪. It's if you don't watch any of my content, that's cool. But the one content that you should watch is this interview with 𝗙𝗘𝗧𝗪. It'll absolutely blow your mind. I think it's one of the best interviews that I think I've ever done. Hardest, you watched it. What do you think? Amazing, right? The guy's a genius. You cannot compare him to anybody else. Crazy. And anyway, that's tomorrow. That's our Friday banter tomorrow. Also now, when I look at Bitcoin, one is we know if we have a bullish September, if we have a green September, usually October, November, and December are very bullish. So you can see in 2024, we had a green September. October, November was very bullish. December was pretty flat. 2023, we had exactly the same thing. Look at 2016 and look at 2015. So it kind of feels like the stars are aligning and we're starting to get that move that we usually get towards the end of the year. You take the fact that you've got all these digital asset treasury companies. You take the fact that now you can do ETFs. You take the fact that you've got that the market's discounting the fact that Powell is still in the Fed, and they're basically saying, look, we're seeing beyond Powell at the Fed, and we're seeing towards the next governor, which we think is going to be much more pro-crypto. And you kind of think to yourself, okay, it's kind of all the puzzle pieces are falling into place. And usually in Bitcoin, October is when the big rally starts. So you can see it here on the chart, but you can also see it here. Usually when you look at October is one of the best months for Bitcoin, if not the best. Just look at the green and look at the magnitude of the greens on October. It usually is for sure the best month for Bitcoin. So that's when it comes to Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin's going to have a very good October, November, December. I still wonder if we're going to get a correction at some point because we haven't really had a correction. That thing that we had in September, that's not a correction. I got to be honest. Like we can't call that a correction. I mean, hopefully we don't, but more realistically, we probably will have a correction at some time. And then we'll go to Valhalla. Either way, next 3 months, next 6 months, I see them as very, very, very bullish. I'm sitting on the side of the fence that says that we're going to have a longer bull market that doesn't end in December. But, you know, I'm ready for both cases. I'm ready for both cases. Anyway, let's talk about altcoins because I think altcoins are more interesting. Just look at what's going on with the altcoins. We've got Aster, which is this new derivatives DEX on BSC, absolutely exploding. We caught that one beautifully in front runners. Just have a look here. This one was caught in front runners at 7 cents, I think. So here it is, 7 cents. Here we go. Aster pair there, 7.7 cents. I think 𝗙𝗍 tweets about this. This is literally what one of our guys said. He literally said he thinks 𝗙𝗍 is going to tweet about this. A few hours later, obviously 𝗙𝗍 did tweet about this. And we kind of know that 𝗙𝗍 is actually invested in this protocol, right? And that's why it's actually running. It's flying right now. And everyone's now calling this the Chinese hyperliquid, right? So they're saying that Aster is the Chinese hyperliquid, right? 𝗙𝗍 is pushing Aster. On top of that, let me give you some more alpha while we're here. It's already in front runners, this alpha. So front runners have had this alpha for a couple of hours already, but not a couple of minutes. Aster sneakily added into the back end of Binance, of coding of Binance.com, meaning that it looks like there's going to be a full exchange integration or at least a token listing on Binance.com. And that's why this protocol is flying like it's basically flying, right? Because of the fact that it looks like 𝗙𝗍 is invested. It looks like 𝗙𝗍 is actually behind, not behind it, but certainly very much invested. Now, I know another protocol that's like that. It is this protocol over here. It's called Hemi. Now, what is Hemi? Hemi is a Bitcoin layer 2. And effectively, it brings DeFi or programmable contracts into Bitcoin, right? Now, again, here I know the team, very, very, very smart team. It's a new launch. It's got a $550 million market cap at the moment. I think it's very, 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 very cheap. And what I know here for sure is that 𝗙𝗍 and his team are actually invested in Hemi. So I don't know if it's going to do the same thing as I don't know if he's going to tweet about it, but I do know that this is one of those projects that you probably should be looking at a $550 million FDV. Remember, you heard it here. You heard it here first. You heard it here first. Other things that are flying. So because of this narrative of decentralized perps, and because of the success of Pump Fund, and because of this cabal token, which is called MYX, which is, I mean, this is a $16 billion DEX or derivatives DEX. This has got a fully diluted valuation of $16 billion. And if you look at their TVL and everything else, it was like, oh man, like you cannot do this. And so what we're realizing is that there's a massive narrative around CLOBs, which is central limit order book perps. And they are now all running to these crazy valuations. Like the reason why this can be at a $5 billion fully diluted valuation is because this is at a $16 billion fully diluted situation. Further, what you can see is that Drift is now starting a catch-up trade. So I must be honest, I bought a whole lot more Drift today. I bought it at 82 cents because you'll listen to the 𝗙𝗘𝗧𝗪 interview and you'll make the decisions yourself. But I think that he's hinting to the fact that Drift is going to be a Hyperliquid competitor. So to be honest, I made a lot of money on Hyperliquid. I rotated some of the money from Hyperliquid and I put it into Drift. I did it this morning at 83 cents. So I don't think you're too late if you want to follow my trade there. Someone says, Avantis, someone says, how is Ron talking about Avantis? We called Avantis in front runners ages ago. In fact, researchers, can you just quickly send me when we posted about Avantis in front runners? Guys, I've said it before. I don't know how else to say this to you. If you're not in front runners, you are missing like 80% of the alpha. I try and bring it on the show. Problem is the show's 45 minutes or 40 minutes every day. Problem is that sometimes there's no narrative, so I can't talk about things like Avantis. But I'm doing it. But as I say, we are always doing this. We're doing this on the show in front runners every single day. Please do me a favor. Go and sign up to front runners. It's like I don't know how else to say this. Every single day. It costs you like $199 a month. If you don't make that money back, send me a mail. I'll give you your money back. It's so simple. Please do it. Like, trust me, it's like, it's crazy. It's like, if you're not part of it, it's honestly crazy at this stage again. Talking altcoins again. So back to altcoins. Remember that last week I did a show and I said that there's the alt season indicator. And generally, the real alt season happens if the alt season indicator stays above 75 for a week. We did the whole analysis in that show. And we said, look, there's been 6 times where it's been a real alt season and 6 times where it hasn't been a real alt season. And the common denominator where it's been a real alt season and another alt season is that if the alt season index stays above for a 75 for a week, that is usually the sign that you're going to have a standard run of 2 to 8 weeks or 8 to 12 weeks. And now today is the anniversary of this index actually being above 75 for a week. So this is the chart, and this is the you can actually, I'll make it a bit bigger here so you can see. But you can see that happened about a week ago. In fact, exactly a week ago. And so we've been over it now for a week. So question now, that was the 11th of September, and now it's the 18th of September. So now the question is whether we follow all the things. Yeah. Oh no, there was. Alex, if you could send me my post, that would be great. Just want to prove a point here to these people. Yeah. So that's the first thing. So you can see that the altcoin season indicator. Here we go. Here it is. Here's the first post in front runners. I think that was the first. I'm watching some of these new players. One being AVNT. Blah 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 blah. That's when we actually bought it in front runners. I think we made like a 5x on it or something like that. Something absolutely crazy. So going back to altcoins, what we know is that when the altcoin season index goes above 75 for more than a week, this is the returns that we get on total 3. So 80%. Here it was the end of the bull market. 98%. Here we were in a downtrend, and here we're in an uptrend. We got 70%. So it feels to me like that's what's about to happen again. I don't know. We may get a correction along the way, but it feels to me like that's the fate and how these things are actually going to play out. Also, when I just look at plain charts and I looked at the RSI crossover on Total 3 versus ETH, which shows us when the altcoins will start outperforming ETH. There's just been an RSI crossover here. Now you can see the last two times that it's actually happened. 2021, bang. 2023, bang. 200% in 2021, 200% or 190% in 2023. And now we've just had that RSI crossover again. So it does look extremely bullish. Same thing on others compared to ETH. It does show you that the market believes that the altcoins are going to start outperforming ETH now, believe it or not. And that is usually the sign of the real alt season. So that's another big one that we should be looking out for. The other thing, which is probably worth talking about, based on the calls that we've made in Frontrunner and the trade that we had on this perps dex, on this Aster perps dex, is the BNB trade. So BNB today hit $1,000 for the first time. Now I got to tell you something. I was part of the BNB ICO. I remember the ICO being at 15 cents, but I might be wrong because it was such a long time ago. CZ remembers it being at 10 cents. That means that BNB token holders have done, if you held them, have done a 10,000x. Can you imagine making 10,000 times your money? That is absolutely probably the best returns that I've ever heard in crypto. 10,000x in 3,000 days. That's basically how much BNB's done. And I mean, Binance going to 100 was sparked off by CZ changing his profile and actually saying, instead of saying XBNB, saying BNB. And now that sparked a whole BNB narrative run, and these perps dexes have been running, and a whole lot of other BNB assets have been running. Again, I do think that Hemi will start running soon, but let's wait and see. Let's wait and actually see. What else out there? Curve was listed today on Robinhood. That's CZ changing his Twitter profile. So he changed it from Binance, from ex-Binance to Binance, which kind of gives us speculation that maybe he'll come back, because he says Binance is in talks with the DOJ to drop the oversight requirement. And one of those things was that CZ wasn't allowed to be the CEO. So yeah, let's see what happens over there. I've already spoken to you about these guys actually running. So yeah, let's get into some formalities for the day, if you want to call it that. Number one, ask Johnny. Johnny, can you put the researcher thing back? I'm still looking for researchers, guys. I need people that are absolutely obsessed with crypto, absolutely obsessed with looking for narratives, tokens in Discords, on Twitter. If you want to join our team full time and you work Europe hours and you work and you're obsessed, I'm looking for researchers on a full-time basis. So please apply below. When you do, you will be asked to fill in a quick questionnaire of a couple of how well you know crypto. Don't use ChatGPT or Grok, because in the first interview you'll look like an asshole. Also, remember, if you want to get your OG Labs, by the way, this OG Labs is doing fantastically well. It's already on a $2 billion market cap on futures. It's the L1 blockchain, right? The L1 blockchain for AI. And I really think that this one's got a big chance of being the AI blockchain. You need to open an account on Bybit or Blowfin, and then we will give away $20,000 worth of that. That should all be here, over here. Lastly, if you want to trade stocks, you can trade them on BitGet, right? So you can go to BitGet, open an account on BitGet, and what you'll see is that they actually trade stocks just like you trade perps. It's all in the same interface, etc. If you sign up, you get an amazing deposit bonus, and you get to trade stocks, which is I think pretty amazing. I think that's it. Tomorrow when we meet, it's going to be Friday Banter, and I'm going to be in day 5 of my fast, guys. I mean, I'm drinking electrolytes. That's all I'm drinking. Someone says almost cake time. I agree. Any other job other than researcher? Yeah, there's a lot of jobs. We're looking for a lot of jobs. 𝗕𝗵𝗄 is phoning me. 𝗕𝗵𝗄, quick summary for run. I don't know what this guy's talking about. All right, chaps. I'll see you guys again tomorrow. Until then, trade well, my friends.